If you've ever wanted to grow your business and brand with the power of organic video, then I have the perfect guest today, because not only is he working with the fastest growing account on Instagram, the School of Hard Knocks, he's worked with the GOATs in the space, helping blow up people's personal brands.
If you could have the cure for cancer and post it, but if you don't know how to, make that consumable online, no one's going to care. Everyone has access to the same information now. The only differentiator is brand. She started out at 1,200 followers, 12 weeks ago, and she's about to hit 25,000 this week. Conversion's the easy part in my book, but actually building the brand that people know, like, and trust is the hard part, and what people are slacking on.
If you're starting from zero, how would you grow your personal brand with the goal of monetization?
What I would do to start genuinely is...
Adam, my main man, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, bro.
Dude, first off, I want to hear how the heck you how did you become the head coach of School of Hard Knocks? I'd love to hear that story, but then take people through a little bit of, like, you've been doing this for 3, maybe 4 years, you're in your 20s, you have a lot of credentials, but like, take us through your journey getting to where you are right now. You just made, as you said before we press record, over $500,000 last year from the power of your content. This is huge. $500,000 just from content, guys. This is the opportunity. This is the conversation that you will want to listen to. So without further ado, Adam, take us away. Tell us about your story.
Yeah, for sure. I'll kind of just give a high-level overview of where I started out with content. Back when I'm 23 now, but when I was around 19, 20 years old, I knew that, content, the power and the skill set of being able to, just generate views that you can eventually turn into leads that can, eventually give you money, purchase your product, service, whatever it is, was going to be the future. Okay. So I was like, I need to get in on this. I was balancing a bunch of different things at the same time, between working full-time at Amazon, day trading full-time. I was also in full-time school for a finance degree. So I was balancing a lot of stuff at one time. I've always been an entrepreneur since I was growing up. Buying, selling, reselling, starting businesses here and there, you know what I mean? But nothing ever really stuck. And then started creating content after I took a trip to Europe for about a month. I backpacked through Europe with 2 of my best friends. I had my last $5,000 and I backpacked through Europe. I got back and I was like, wow, like, I need to be able to get back there next year and the year after and the year after that. And I need to just really lock in on one thing. Like, what is going to be my one thing? You know what I mean? And I landed on content. So I originally started, and my goal was to create content every single day for an entire year and see, is that going to change my life? You know what I mean? And so my goal was create content once a day for an entire year, document my journey of competing in this bodybuilding competition that I wanted to compete in. Okay. And I crushed that goal. I was able to generate over 400 million views for myself. Peaked out at about 181,000 followers. And I learned the skill set of how can I generate views? And then at that point, I was like just freelancing, you know what I mean, here and there with people making a little bit of money. I was able to quit my job. I finished school. And then I really got into the agency realm, starting an agency where I was selling my skill set through my brand, and then also people that I know, cold approaching, literally just like in the trenches of scaling this agency with my business partner at the time. And a bunch of other stuff happened in between, but we were able to, start and scale an agency in 2025 from nothing in January to doing over 500K in rev of that year, topped out at 72K in revenue for the month of August. And we even went and, filmed a documentary in the North Pole. It was absolutely insane. I was able to work on a lot of interesting people's accounts and YouTube channels. So not only am I really good when it comes to organic short form, but exceptionally good when it comes to organic YouTube as well. I've got some credibility there, and then stepped into the ads game with service-based business owners. So very well-rounded in the realm of just digital marketing for business owners, creators, and entrepreneurs.
Wow, dude. I'm so pumped for today's conversation and to be selfish and get some of the ins of what's going on with these organizations. So I want to talk about what has changed? What have you seen? Because in 2026, a lot has come up. AI has changed the landscape of content creators, of entrepreneurs, of just social media in general. And I know you're really big into AI, and you've been dabbling about. They've been talking about that a lot, and with your not only with your clients but with your own brand. So I want to dive a little bit deep into what are you seeing is the changes going on in 2026 and beyond, and then any predictions that you have, moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. So as AI pertains to content, this year has been extremely big with the release of OpenClaw, some other open source agents, and just agents becoming in general a larger use case for people other than just developers. Okay, anyone can create an agent. Which, if you don't know what an agent is, it's a spin up of basically AI, but its goal is to accomplish a certain process or task, and it has specific like training and knowledge base to accomplish that. Okay. So you can think of an agent similar to an employee. So if you give an agent bad context, you're going to get a bad output. You know what I mean? Similar as if I hired someone to be an employee of mine and I didn't give them any SOPs on how to get the desired result, then their desired result is probably not going to be what I was expecting or good. Very similar thing with agents. So the more context, the better. When it comes to agents in content creation, I've been able to create some super sick softwares and data mine so much incredibly good data from the top content creators online. Okay. And so the difference with AI today than a year ago is you remember how everyone online used to say, hey, give out all the value, give everyone as much value as you possibly can. That day is kind of behind us because people weren't able to mine, organize, and access data as well as they can now. And so I can understand and put together pieces of information from, let's just say, like an Alex Hormozy, all of that data and context that he has. I more or less can put together the strategy, the mindset, or the step-by-step execution plan that he, is trying to give partly through content, but you can get full context when all of that data is organized in one data set. So you kind of, I say, like, you want to still provide, good and free, free value, tactical, non-obvious value, but you don't want to give out too much sauce before people really start putting it together.
Hmm. It's really crazy just in the journey in the last year, as you said, how fast AI is not only changing the landscape of content, but businesses in general. And what I'm kind of seeing, and I don't know if you agree with this, is that information is not valuable anymore. People can literally ChatGPT, Claude, Google AI, whatever, their answer faster than watching YouTube video, faster than watching a TikTok or Instagram reel. Like, it is giving us the answer, excuse me. So how are you seeing this changing? Like, because before on YouTube, I remember I started 7 years ago. The era was like whoever could give the best info won, but now it's like info is trash. Like, information is not going to do anything for you, right? Or if info is all I needed, I would already have a six pack and be rich. And so what are you seeing? How AI is changing what entrepreneurs who create content are talking about, like in their feeds.
I like to say it's the difference between consulting and coaching. Today, there's so many people who sell information online, but the biggest differentiator I'm seeing is not only who has the best information, but who can get that information across the table to that next person with as little friction as possible. And they actually like that other person. People in the future aren't going to buy from people that they don't like. Okay, they don't like, everyone knows no, like, and trust, but genuinely everyone has access to the same information now. The only differentiator is brand, right? So do I like that person? Do I what they're about? Do I like their values? All of that, all of those things. And so it's just a difference between consulting. I can give someone the roadmap, but I can't I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make a horse drink, right? But take the perspective as someone who's coaching, the best results that I've gotten with the myriad of business owners and entrepreneurs that I've coached through content is right after I get them through a major mindset breakthrough. They have the roadmap, they have the credentials, they're making so much money with their business, but they can't get over this bump on, whatever it is with their mindset. I don't know if I can post that. Maybe this person is going to think or say that. And from a consulting perspective, some people will be like, well, just do it. You just have to post it. You just have to do it. But from an actual coaching perspective, really diving deeper into why they think that, overcoming that issue with them, and then meeting them in the middle and getting them over that hurdle, so then they can accomplish the goal of posting that piece of content, building their brand, and doing that next thing. It's really the people who are going to win are the people that can meet others in the middle and get them over those humps and coach instead of just consult.
Ah, dude, I love to hear this because there's a trend going on, and let me know in the comments if you've seen it. This idea of stop teaching or like stop course creating, right? That this industry is dying in quotes, right? Because as you said, it's like not about the info itself, because we all know in the fitness example, to get in shape, you need to eat less and move more. It's very simple, but it's hard to execute. And what you're kind of saying, at least what I'm interpreting at it, is that a consultant can give you that information and you would still not get the outcome. But a coach would help you actually guide you through why you're not doing the thing that you know you need to do. And I
Yep.
think when in content and how we succeed, and what I'm seeing with my clients as well, is the people who shift the beliefs are the ones that are actually making the most money, building the biggest brands, and becoming thought leaders. Like coaches are now becoming thought leaders. They're getting known for their thought. They're building authority, which is different from attention, right? Which is trust, right? We're in a trust recession, is that people don't trust what they see and hear online, especially with AI. I can ask a prompt to write me the perfect script and I can seem like, yeah, I'm perfect. I know what I'm talking about. But then I get on a sales call and I'm like, So what's really interesting on this point is that your job now as an entrepreneur is not to just give them not just the info, but as you said, break the belief. So for instance, like I talk a lot about views, and that a lot of my clients may not get a ton of views. One of my most successful clients, he had 1,500 subscribers but made $1.5 million on his YouTube channel with only 1,500 subscribers. And you see this with Alex Hormozy starting a second channel with he's getting less views but more money. And which is crazy because it's like he has a channel that has millions of subs, but yet he's starting the second channel. Like, why? And I think to your point is the shift is happening. The algorithms are becoming more matchmakers. And so we need to be more specific in the content and don't just share the info, share the belief that breaks them like from like I guess maybe it's an implementation. Would that be a nice way? Instead of information, it's implementation.
100%. I totally agree with that. And just touching on that point as well with Alex Hormozy, yeah, I mean, he puts out so much volume so he can, start to see, these trends a lot faster than everyone else. So while everyone else is still lagging behind, he's already got maybe 100,000 subscribers on his More Mosey account, which the subscriber count doesn't even matter. If you go and look at the average views per YouTube video, he's only averaging 500 to 1,500 views. You know what I mean? But he stated that account is making him 5 to 6x more than his main account, where he averages 300,000 views, per video. It's really just all about the quality of the viewer that's coming in and watching that content, and that the content of just him raw workshopping is working exceptionally well compared to him doing a scripted out video, how to accomplish XYZ before you're 30.
So do you agree that views don't matter What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I would say depending on what you're trying to do to monetize your brand, that views may matter a lot or they might not matter whatsoever because, there are three ways to monetize your personal brand account. So you've got the first way, which is, selling, your product or service to, that individual or potential viewer that can become a lead. And usually when you're selling your own product or service, maybe it's an info product, an agency, a software, whatever it is, that's usually higher ticket, right? So your viewer needs to be someone with a lot more intention behind that view. So your content might be more middle or bottom of funnel, which is completely fine. You're still going to attract that person. You're going to get a 30th of the amount of views as someone else, but you're going to make a lot more money potentially. Second way is where you build a brand and maybe you don't really understand how to monetize. This is a situation that I was in, 3 years ago when I started making content. Is I didn't understand how to convert these people into dollars at first. And so what that did is it didn't leave me helpless, but it did open up a hell of a lot of doors for me because I still understood the skill and could communicate that skill over to other people. Okay, so that's the second way. First way, sell your own product or service. Second way, it's going to open up a lot of doors for you, and it's just going to raise your authority overall in society. Okay. Third way is where you are monetizing through, potentially doing UGC videos, collabs with people, stuff like that, where you're really getting paid off the back end of content, like Mr. Beast, for example. And I don't really suggest that way to anyone. I did help a friend of mine and a creator jump from 320,000 followers to 1.2 million followers in 90 days. And yes, we increased his views from an average of 2 to 300K per video to 2 to 5 million per video. And that did result in him being able to 8x the amount that he's going to make this year. But only because the way he's monetizing is through viewership and brand deals. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up on this topic, monetization, because I think people are confused, have too many options. And so I'd love to know, how would you take someone if you were starting from zero and reverse engineer? Because I love what you're saying. It's like, depending on, you didn't say to the views comment, well, yes or no. You said, well, depends on, how you're trying to monetize. And that shows that you're a real coach, you're a real one. That I want to hear from you. If you're starting from zero, how would you grow your personal brand with the goal, right? The goal of monetization. So not to become the biggest brand, out there, but the goal is like, how can you build $1 million personal brand, and take us through that path and how you think you would go and do that yourself, or for, someone watching and listening to this right now.
Yeah, this is a really good thought experiment actually. So what I would do if I was trying to build a $1 million personal brand from absolute scratch, let's say I have no credibility, no skills, no anything, what I would do to start genuinely is I would, on the content side, start documenting the process of me going to go and either start a business, learn a skill, or scale something. Okay. And so the reason why I would do that is because, one, people love to follow along the journey of something from start to finish, like start to end, whatever that might be. And then second thing is for you to monetize in the most effective way possible, which is selling your own information coaching, which is just extremely high margin. And as long as you can sell, can communicate well, and can fulfill on the promise to your leads, then you're going to make a lot of money. It's very, very simple, just those three things. But what I would do is I would start with finding the niche or business that I want to go into and start learning about. Maybe I would pick something top of funnel, maybe something like real estate, something in with like finance, money, or maybe just a normal service business, because there's a lot of people who are viewing those topics. Okay. So it's top of funnel. So there's a lot of people viewing those topics. So you're going to have a super large TAM for when you go to start and try to monetize that audience. And I would just start documenting like from the get go, like this is this is where I'm at. This is where I want to go. Like, here's my roadmap and plan. And then I would just start documenting and posting every single day to you going and accomplishing that goal, building or scaling that specific thing that you want to do. And then you can eventually, monetize the audience. But you have to give first. You definitely have to give first for 6 to 12 months before you really try to start to take. And, you got to fill that bucket up of that trust before you start emptying it.
Are you starting on Instagram or are you starting on YouTube? What platform are you starting on?
That would also depend based on the niche or industry that I would go into. For someone brand new, I would really start on Instagram or TikTok. I think that YouTube definitely takes an amount of capital to get going on, and it's definitely harder. So people are going to get, what's the word? Unenthusiastic after they've posted their first 20 YouTubes and they don't really get much. You can
Yeah.
have an Instagram
It's a
or
longer
TikTok.
tail to see success with YouTube. Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, you could get 500 views or 1,000 views in your first video on Instagram and TikTok versus YouTube. It's more unlikely, not impossible, but more unlikely.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you're picking your niche. So you're starting from very niche specific and TAM, total addressable market, for the people who don't know, the size of your market that you can reach. So if you're, trying to target, if your market's very small, it'd be hard to, get more views. So what you're saying is find a total addressable market that's big enough for you to, a small slice of the pie is still multiple millions of people, if not more. So picking that niche, you have to be skilled in that niche. We're not just like theorizing, and you're documenting you achieving something. So you said starting, scaling, and what was the other thing?
And really just hitting that end goal that you're kind of setting the baseline on your account, of like what you want to accomplish, and just taking people through that journey or process. Because whenever you do something like that, there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people that want to go and do that potentially same thing as you, but don't have the time, don't have the money, don't have, the roadmap to go and do that. And they'll kind of live out that dream and process through you.
Gotcha. So what I'm hearing, if you're somewhat of a beginner, you're in the starting phase, this is a great strategy because you build trust by showing, not just telling people like, oh, I'm good at YouTube. Well, no, I just made 30 videos in 30 days or whatever, right? I'm documenting the journey of starting my YouTube channel or something like that. And now you have proof. So you build that trust and you're showing people the actual wins and losses and the lessons you learn. And that's the ingredient for the starter. Let's flip the script for our audience that is an expert, that has been in the space for 10 years. They are a love coach, a business coach, a finance coach. They have an expertise. They get amazing results, yet no one really knows who they are. Maybe their business is based on referrals. It's not like they have a problem with their business, but they want to get more known. They want to build it, grow it, and they want to leverage content. Is there a different strategy you would use for this type of person, or would you recommend the same strategy?
Yeah. Has this person been posting content consistently for, let's just say, X amount of time, or are they also pretty fresh and they just have business experience?
Great, great. Yeah, expert in business, beginner to content, I would say.
Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I help out with business owners every single week, through the School of Hard Knocks, being the head coach, and helping these business owners who are incredibly, like, well known in their little bubble of maybe their town, their state, their local area, but not well known on content. They might have been posting consistently prior, but they just don't know exactly what lever they need to pull to really start to build up that credibility. They might be the best in their space potentially, but no one really knows their name. Which I like to say, if you could have the cure for cancer and post it, but if you don't know how to make that consumable online, no one's going to care. Okay, so it's the very same thing with these, incredible business owners and entrepreneurs in our time that have all this knowledge, just no way to get it out. So the first thing that I would do for these people is the format, which is going to be the mechanism for them to actually go ahead and get their message out. needs to be something that allows them to showcase their credibility extremely quickly. And so the format that I like to start a lot of my clients on is green screen, actually. So it's green screen reaction content. And the reason why I start a lot of my clients that have a lot of expertise and success in their business on this format is because green screen allows you to do two things. One, it allows you to position yourself as an authority in your space. And then two, it also allows you to show yourself as um, an abnormality in your thought process and how you think and how you would react to a specific scenario, person, or thing. So let me provide an example. I have a client who is she's a health coach. She sells info on like health coaching for women in menopause trying to lose weight, right? Very similar to the examples that we're talking about in here. So that's her specific niche, and she's the best in the world at it, but she had no way to get that message out. So what we started to do for her was I wanted her to react to three different things. One, news articles in her niche or specialty coming out, studies on like peptides, weight loss for women, all of that broad top of funnel type of content. And I wanted her to screenshot that, or if you don't know what a green screen is, it's that type of content where you see the cutout of someone and then like maybe a notes behind them, a viral video or something that they're reacting to. And I wanted her to react to those studies, news articles, or viral videos coming out. And I wanted to give her authentic take and position herself as the credible thought leader in her space. So her hook would be something like, hey, like XYZ just came out or happened. This is, what I think as someone who is a doctor and has accomplished XYZ. So, and then she's able to give her differentiating opinion from that study or video. So we're already going and starting to collect a larger number of views since it's something that's already top of mind on people's head because it was a news article or a viral video or something like that. So our base level of views are already up by doing this method. And then she's also giving a different opinion and a raw opinion at that on the like topic or subject. So she's positioned as a higher authority in people's minds because she's thinking differently.
Mhm. I love that. I just want to pause there because people don't think about how viral news is. Every single day there's news, and it's one of the easiest types of content to spread like wildfire, right? Because of the headlines. And so, what I love about this is it's fast. Very easy for someone to, read a little bit of the article, screenshot it, and then go into your phone. This is native in Instagram and TikTok. There's a green screen effect. I'll put it up on screen so you can see it. And you could just talk about it. You don't need a script. You maybe think through the hook, as you said. That's because the first 3 seconds is the most important. But you don't need a script. You just give it your raw take, and it does really, really well. We've seen this with our clients as well, just because it's news. So it's like the low hanging fruit. What is the easiest content to create that doesn't take a lot of time, that can reach the most amount of people? So I love that. So reaction, green screen, and for anyone out there, it's good to have visuals. Like I love a good yap, talking to the camera, headshot. But as human beings, we can get bored. So just having something visual to see helps hold the attention of the viewer. And we know that the way to get more views is it really comes down to watch time. How much time someone watches the video. So what's great about that is that this also does that. So it's really low hanging fruit, but I love this. Okay, so we're doing green screen reaction content, and you said you had two other ones, right?
Yeah, I mean, what I have my clients do is start with green screen reaction, and we really run with that for 2 to 3 months before we start putting out more like talking heads and personal story type of content because I really want to get their baseline views up. Because I mean, everyone has like an average views, per post. Like, let's say you post, 30 times a month. Some get 10, 5, 2. You know what I mean? You can probably average out that routinely get about 5,000 views per post. That's awesome. But for someone who has a large expertise and is only getting, averaging 200 views per post, it's very defeating for that person. And then also, they're not able to get that message out to enough people. So I kind of frame it as, well, I want to get that baseline level of views up for you. And then it's also like they believe in their message so much that we need to stay consistent for these 3 months on doing these green screens so we can raise that base levels to, the 10 to 30,000 view range. And it's your duty to do that because you need to get your message out to reach more people of, in your ICP so that you could, help them. So, that's what I like to start with most of my clients. Like that client specifically, she started out at 1,200 followers, 12 weeks ago, and she's about to hit 25,000 this week, which is absolutely insanely quick for a platform like Instagram. TikTok, it's a little bit easier to grow, especially when you're doing like a raw type of video. But just piggybacking off of what you said earlier, with positioning, the visual matching what you're saying. And green screen does a very good job at that because you're reacting to something. But a lot of people mess up in their content is they don't break it down into a mathematical method, okay, like a strategical method. A lot of people don't really realize you have, a visual hook, a verbal hook, and a written hook. Okay. If you're missing even one of those legs in your video, it's not going to perform as well because social media is a marketplace. And so your video is competing against everyone else's videos, right? So if I have a visual hook and a verbal hook, but no written hook, my video obviously isn't going to perform potentially as well as someone who, is making something on the same topic, but has all three paired correctly. Okay. And so, something that I, really preach to all my clients is when they are verbally saying something, the visual needs to match in that frame, and that creates a stronger connection with the viewer because we are visual, we are visual creatures. Not only can we hear, but we can also see. So if both of those things are lining up and matching, we are creating a stronger memory of, that creator or person in our head.
Yeah, seeing is believing. The
Yeah.
more visuals you can show me, the more likely I am to believe it, remember it, come back to it. It's way easier to show. A picture is a thousand. A picture is 1,000 words. Like it's way easier to just show something than describe something, right? So, and are your clients doing this all iPhone, all RAW, or is this in a professional studio? Because this is an objection that a lot of people have is like, well, Kyler, I don't have the equipment. I don't have I just have my phone. And I have a feeling like you probably just make them use their iPhone, right?
All iPhone. It's all iPhone.
So guys and gals, you have no excuse. We live in a day and age where this is a 4K camera right here in your pocket. And honestly, in today's day and age, some of my iPhone videos perform better than my, $5,000 camera videos that I'm using right now. It's crazy because it's just like more real, raw, and authentic, as people say. So I love that. Okay, so for the first 3 or so months, they're doing reaction style content, and then you mentioned how they go into talking head content, which is like you just yapping to the camera, you talking to the camera. And is there any strategy around that at all, or is it just like what's your process with that?
Yeah, I like to call it just, a lot of people you might have heard it is belief shifting content. So now that we have our base level amount of views up higher than what they previous were, and we, have captured a good amount of an audience and people are starting to trust you, now you need to start shifting their beliefs towards what you're saying is, the roadmap is the correct thing. And so that is a mix of, yes, talking head content, that's structured properly, with proper guidelines throughout the video to take people through a story, a storyline, and actually teach them something, and also provide them a little bit more education because on those green screens, yes, you're providing your opinion and it's very top of funnel, but people don't really feel like you've really given them something yet, right? And so we need to start making talking heads, of content that is tactical, something that they can actually go and implement and change about their current circumstance or life. And then it also needs to be non-obvious to capture that attention. Normal talking heads aren't as top of funnel. You're not going to get as many views and eyeballs on that talking head than you are on a green screen, because the green screen is, already viral because you're reacting to something. So we need to make sure that we're providing, tactical, non-obvious information, because if someone's watching your video and, maybe it's on, a topic that they are interested in or can relate to, but it's something that they've never heard before, they're much more likely to watch that video, and potentially even convert off of that video if you're teaching them something they feel like they've never known. And if you can do that consistently once a day, you are going to start raking in leads. There's definitely some nuance there with, you definitely need, a good story sequence strategy and things like that. But for a lot of people who really just want to start building that audience, nurturing them to the point of where they can convert, this is definitely the method for them.
What I love about what you're saying too is that you're not just saying one type of content. You're really talking about a funnel. Like when it comes down to it, like this is getting attention, like building authority, building trust, and then moving them into a sales conversation so you can sell, right? And you start off like building the base, building a foundation, getting known, and then you start getting into building trust, right? So you start getting people to like you, as you said, before you start moving, or to know you, to like you, and then to trust you. And I see so many coaches online talk about one style content, or this is the only way. When I love the approach that you're recommending is that, well, there's not a way, there's a way for the type of business, who you are, because it all comes from, like, if you are doing something you don't like, you're not going to be sustainable doing it, number one. Number two, people will feel it on the other end of the lens of the screen. And so, why I love this style content right here, podcasting, because it's like we're just having a conversation. Um, I want to get into the types of content, like when you're talking about like scripting versus non-scripting. You hear this all the time, right? And what I'm alluding to is that this is a type of piece of content, podcasting. Then there's the talking head. Then there's the green screen. And people are like, I don't know which one to do, right? So we understand why we have the reaction green screen one. We understand why we have the talking head one. But I want to get into, like, are you pro scripting? Are you against scripting? Does it depend? What's your views on scripting content for social media?
Yeah, so my views on scripting content for social media may differ from other people's, but it really comes down to the format of the piece of content that you're putting out, right? So if I am a dentist, for example, and I want to start building my brand, becoming the authority in my space, and I specialize in this one thing, within dentistry, maybe it is like pediatrics or something like that. Then that the format of content that I'm going to make for that specific niche and for that business is very different than the format that I'm going to make for, let's say, I'm a roofer. And so the dentist goal is going to be, to attract more parents that want to bring their kids into their dentistry, while the roofer's goal might be to get more recruits to go and sell door to door for their business, right? So let's just say the roofing guy, for example. I would never do scripted content for a roofer, because their niche is a service industry. It's a service industry. It's on the fly. It's about making money. And so that type of content needs to be raw and in the field. They need to be, doing meta glasses, on the doors, replacing roofs, talking with the team. Their content needs to be like kind of very similar to this, or very similar to a man on the street content, where they are going and knocking doors, having real conversations with people, because that's the content that their audience wants to see, so that they know that they can trust them and that they're actually doing and are, who they say they are. When it comes to the dentistry, that professional, like the type of content that he might want to post is a little bit more scripted, where he can, more so target, that parent who is looking for content or an answer to solve the pain points that their child is having. Okay, so that that dentist might make, scripted content going over like, hey, like this is exactly when you need to start looking at getting your child braces or Invisalign, or to solve those pain points that the person that they're trying to track is having. No one is really going to care about seeing a dentist live in the field working on someone. You know what I mean? But they care is, are they good at are they good at what they say they are, and are they can they solve the pain point that I have? And so with that specific format, that's probably going to be a little bit more scripted and ideated than the roofer who is run and gun. Like those people are expecting something raw, while these people over here on this side of the aisle are expecting something a little bit more put together because of the profession. Does that make sense?
100%. And this is what I've been telling so many people is that you got to re-engineer who your audience is. And you've been demonstrating that in our conversation. You've never said definitively yes or no. You've always said depends, because you're right. It's like you can't say yes, this works for every single niche. It's like there's so many factors to why people blow up. You hear of Jessie Jean, the Yap girl that had a $1.2 million launch in 6 months, and that's one style content that'll attract one type of person. And then there's people like yourself that you have similar successes as her, but you have very different style content and very different approaches, but yet you have similar credentials. So who say one is right or wrong? It just depends on so many factors. And so you breaking this down is super helpful for people watching, listening to this right now. And that a lot of this is what I'm seeing is like, yes, it's external, but it's a lot of internal. It's like, okay, like you're in the industry. What do you consume? What do you watch? If you were going to be sold, how would you want them to show up? And a lot of times, if you're selling to your past self, which is, a great rule of thumb, if you're a coach or a consultant or an expert, you've solved the problem and now you're coaching people on how to solve that problem, then you were the client. And so just figuring out what content you like to watch is a great way to figure out what content you should create. And then obviously following someone like yourself to learn, okay, now there's some nuances like the green screen. This is a great way to get attention, to build authority, to become known in the space. And then whether you script or not script, are you in a studio versus are you in the field? All these little things, there's so much detail that goes into it that people, I think, content is like a second thought, but you and I both know that the businesses that are the biggest and most known right now, it's the first thought. It is, I am a media company and I am a dentist. I'm a media company and I am a roofer. And they're taking the media first approach to their business. And those are the ones that I see really succeed.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And there's, an issue that I see with a lot of clients that come in and speak with me first is they are so worried about how are they going to monetize from the work that they're going to be doing. And that's just the completely wrong thought process. You said it like right now, where you need to picture yourself as a media company first. And I just happen to do dentistry. I'm a media company and I just happen to be the best roofer, right? Because if you can really succeed on the media company side, it is going to be extremely easy to go and convert people. That's the conversion's the easy part in my book, to be honest. But actually building the brand that people trust, know, like, and trust is the hard part, and what people are slacking on. They build out the perfect offer before they even have a lead come through the funnel.
Mm. So what are you facing? Because you're in the School of Hard Knocks, which is one of the largest communities on the school platform. But it is a community full of entrepreneurs trying to grow their business, and you're the head coach. So you talk with entrepreneurs every single day. What are some problems you're seeing right now? We're talking in August in 2026. What are the issues right now? And let's like rapid fire. Let's get through some tactical tips to help these entrepreneurs watching, listening to this right now, get over themselves, get over the mindset, as you said earlier, and like start creating content. I see so many people, like only 1% of people online are like actually creating. Maybe it's 10%. I don't know. It's too small. That's all I know. Not enough people are creating content. It's such an amazing opportunity. But what are some of the challenges you see that keep coming up for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I would say first one is differentiation. Okay. So people going and just copying the same, not even the same format or style, but even like the similar like thought processes or takes that other people have. Okay. So like one is differentiation. Like you should have your own thoughts and opinions on specific matters. And that's valuable because you are with putting out your own thoughts and opinions, you're going to do two things. One, you're going to repel the people that you don't even want to work with in the first place. And then two, you're going to attract the people who think the same way as you, who are going to be easier to sell when the time comes. Okay. So differentiation and just really putting out your real opinion. That's number one. Number two is just starting, to be honest. I know it's so cliche of, just consistency, keep going. But there's a very different take and mold of a person between someone who stays consistent at something for an entire year. Take me, for example. I could have posted content for an entire year and still stayed stuck at 1,000 followers. Okay. But I stayed consistent, but I didn't even, recognize and take the feedback from what the platform was telling me was good and bad and wrong. Okay. So there's a very big difference between people who just stay consistent and never change anything about their process based on the feedback that they're getting, and then people who stay consistent and consistently iterate on their content. Okay. Constant iteration is necessary for social media. The algorithm is changing every 90 to 180 days. So if you're not posting consistently, you're not even going to know like the nuances of what's been changing, right? So that's number two, even though it's everyone says that, but there's a difference between consistency and iteration. So I'll just leave it at that. And then number three is actually having a solid like roadmap. I see a lot of consultants who, tell people like they sell people on like, hey, this is the roadmap on, what we're going to accomplish, but they don't actually lay out a step-by-step plan for them. Okay. So with my clients, I try to make it as easy as possible for them to get started and then stay consistent. So, like I said, I usually only have people, only do green screen for the first 3 months because they are already grinding and trying to grow their business. And now that they're trying to do content on top of it, I don't make their, content plan, strategy, roadmap complex. I make it as easy as possible for someone to succeed with it. So simplicity is key when it comes to like content, especially if you're a business owner, create like or entrepreneur for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've made that mistake too. It's like, I'm like, okay, now you have to take 8 hours out of your busy schedule to make this video. It's like, well, I don't have time for that, right? So simplicity and easy and re-engineering everything like that makes them want to work. Some people hate script writing and can't do it, and so you got to figure out a way to make it work for them, right? So figuring that stuff, that style. And other people love script writing. They're like a writer first versus like a speaker first. And that's something I've learned is like the different types of people will gravitate to different types of content, right? So I'm loving this conversation. I want to be a little bit selfish because like I'm in a place in my own journey. I've been 7 years creating content. I've scaled, I've helped scale, been on teams, been behind the camera for seven-figure entrepreneurs, and now over the last year to 2 years, I've started to get in front of the camera, starting this podcast, putting out some experiences. First was like just like tips on how to create content, right? And now it's about, I'm trying to grow my own brand, right? And what's this? I've done it for other people. I've been on teams of doing it for other people. I'm very interested in this documenting approach. And I want to get your 2 cents on, what will you recommend someone who's been behind the camera for 7 years, who had the agency, consulting at the moment? What is something, like you said, I like the starting and scaling idea. Is the idea is in the documenting question, is it to, because like I have an agency and I have a coaching business, is it to scale? Are you saying like it's a challenge, like, hey, I'm challenging myself to scale my business to 100K per month, or I'm starting this coaching business. Like, what's your approach to the documenting? Because I see more and more people doing that, and I feel like not enough people. That's such a good skill set for people to learn how to do. And so I want to dive into that a little bit, if I can be selfish for a second here. I don't know if I'm making
Yeah.
sense with my question.
No, I think you make sense. I think you're making sense. Let me know if I give you a good enough answer. But I would say it's more so setting a challenge for yourself. You know what I mean? So you set the challenge and you're going to document yourself, over accomplishing that challenge. And so what you're essentially doing is you're running the hero's journey, but live on social media. Okay. And so if no one knows what the hero's journey is, it's the hero's journey. It's, taking, and showcasing, you where you're at, going, this is, the goal or challenge you have to overcome. And then, all the different, things that come up and hurdles that you have to jump over, get around to accomplish that goal. And it's not going to be easy. So I like setting the challenge. The challenge method works exceptionally well for people. And it doesn't need to be anything crazy either. You can do a 30-day one. I have a close friend of mine who he did a 30-day challenge of scaling an agency, and it took his brand new YouTube to 30,000 subs and cash collected over $1 million from doing one 30-day series. You know what I mean? So people love to see that because they're living it through you. And you're going to attract your ideal audience that is, going through those pain points or has that same challenge that they want to eventually overcome and hit.
So, how big does the challenge have to be? For instance, I'm starting a daily YouTube series where I'm posting every day for 30 days and challenging myself to show people how easy YouTube can be because people, obsess over editing, obsess over script writing, and those things are important. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of people who are just getting started, right? Though that thing, they're not ready for that yet. So I'm showing them that, hey, you can post 30 videos in 30 days and be in the top 10% of YouTubers in 30 days because it takes people almost a year to get the 30 videos. You're doing it in a month and you learn so much and you gain momentum. And it's starting to, already week one of my clients has like gone triple the amount of leads he was getting in the first week of this challenge. So it's getting great results. But how big does the challenge have to be? Is that big enough of a challenge? Or is it just as long as it matches what they desire, it's fine?
I would say as long as it matches what they desire is fine. And the challenge could be literally anything big or small, but what are the stakes? That's what really matters when you're doing a challenge like this. Like, hey, what are the stakes if I can't accomplish this thing? Because people usually care about, hey, like this is what's gonna happen if this doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like just normal like story architecture is if I can't overcome this thing, then like I'm cooked. A prime example I saw a few months ago is sad. This is a sad story, but I saw this kid posting content, and his hook went something like, "My father just passed away X amount of days ago. I have 12 months to build an online business at 18 years old, or else my mom can't pay for the house." So not only did he set the challenge, but he also set the stakes. And so people aren't even going to watch for the challenge. They're just going to watch to see, hey, like what's going to happen to this kid. Right. And so the
Wow,
stakes have to be high, or else no
that's
one's going to care.
crazy. Yeah. Okay, cool. So really actually developing the stakes in the game. So this is good for people watching and listening to this right now. I think as a lot of people have tried and failed, these series. And something I'm noticing, especially on YouTube, is they just released the new show feature, which is now they're trying to compete with Netflix. So YouTube wants creators and entrepreneurs to create series style content and having, yeah, whether that be a challenge or a show, just anything for people to binge because YouTube cares about if they stay on the platform. I mean, every platform cares about that. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, they want you to stay on the platform. So the more it's a series I can continue watching, the more money they make. So it's such a smart play, for someone either beginning and maybe even experiencing their journey to start. So I love this. Is there anything else any advice you want to share in this documentary style content strategy?
Yeah, I would just say that this is the one like specific format or piece of content where you really should think about and take time to make a guide or just like outline of like what exactly you are going to be accomplishing, showcasing, what are the stakes going to be? Because once you start something like this, you have to finish it, or else your audience, potential audience, is you're just going to diminish trust. If you don't hit it, that's fine. But as long as you start something, you have to finish it when it comes to like the documenting style.
Yeah, if you don't hit it, you can talk about the lessons you learned and not hitting it and do it again. You
Yep.
could do it as many times until you hit it, right? Like you said, like you just talking about the example of the guy that had to launch his business and make enough money so he could pay, like I want to go look up this guy and like, where is he at in his journey? You just saying that hook, I'm hooked into, I want to root for him. I want to encourage him. Right. So dude, I appreciate you so much for coming on. You've given so much game. I've rapid fire questions at you, and you have totally answered them and given us really tactical advice to go in to create content, to grow our brand, to stand out and sell out online, because this is a forever changing industry. But I think this is the greatest opportunity. Content creation is wealth creation in 2026 and beyond. And it is literally what I like to say, it is a journey of becoming someone worth getting followed. Like
I love that.
people have this expectation with content like, well, I should just have 1 million followers because. Well, because why? Like you have to have something to have that amount of people to follow you and want to hear what you have to say. And it's not just because of your credentials, it's like how you make people feel. And I go back to psychology. I remember studying psychology in school, and at the time I didn't really care. But now I'm so thankful because psychology is about the study of human beings, how they think, how they feel, and how they act. And if the goal of content is to act, to change and do something, then you have to get really good at making them change their thought patterns and make them feel something. And what you're describing right now, you're totally changing our belief around, do we focus on views or do we focus on building trust? Do we take a documentary approach or do we take a more authoritative approach? Because there's two different lanes you can go in, right? And showing us how to think and and showing us what that will result in how people feel online with our brand, liking you, and then how they act. And so this has just been a great conversation. And I'd like to give the floor to you to give any final thoughts, any words of encouragement or wisdom you want to share, and then let people know where to find you online.
Yeah, for sure. And I really appreciate the conversation as well. I would just say to wrap everything up, something I tell all my clients consistently, and this goes for people who haven't really posted a lot of content um, previously, is like you just said, you have to be someone worth following. If you're not making someone laugh or teaching them something that they can go and implement today, they're not going to care, right? And so we have to play with this balance of providing people with good enough information for them to go and take action on, and then giving your own take or thought process on why this is best and why they should do it this way, right? So when it comes to creating social media content, the three most important things are: one, consistency paired with iteration; two, putting out your own opinion on topics and subjects relating to your niche; and then three, and this is honestly probably the most important one, is giving before asking. Okay, so you need to really pour in to the people that you eventually want to monetize before you start asking them for something, asking them to convert, asking them to do something for you. Because if you don't build that bucket up enough, then you're just going to start to diminish your trust. And yes, people will always reach out to you if they know, like, and trust you enough, but you don't want to be focused on the conversion side, to start, you really want to be focused on filling up that cup of trust and just building that brand, providing value.
Yeah, the more that you give, the more you can ask. So give, 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 and then when you're ready, ask. Adam, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate you giving us all your time, all your knowledge, in your experience. So really appreciate it, all of your information. All, if you want to go check out Adam, his info will be down in the description below. And without further ado, thank you so much. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Peace.